Thanks for inviting me to join you today. My name is Mary Johnston Turner, and I'm Research Vice President for IDC's Future of Digital Infrastructure Agenda program, which provides voice of the customer research related to a broad range of infrastructure technology strategies. I've been with IDC for over 10 years and have an extensive background in working with infrastructure technology vendors, service providers, and end users. And in my time with you today, I'll provide an overview of some of the major worldwide trends we're seeing in the area of enterprise digital infrastructure transformation. Let me give you a little bit of context. If you think about what's going on today, IDC is predicting that 65% of global GDP will be digitalized in the next few years. And that's having ramifications across almost every aspect of business and infrastructure. Think about how workloads are transforming. Not only are they becoming more integrated and real time, but AI is becoming embedded in almost every business critical environment to help make real time decisions, power chatbots, and really transform a lot of business activity. At the same time, data is being created in more and more places, in more and more formats. The edge in particular is becoming just a hotbed of innovation as we collect more data, create more insight, and integrate that with applications and workloads and third-party services. At the same time, enterprises are investing heavily in automation and in unified automated management across all the different infrastructure resources, whether it's clouds, networks, or data centers, all in the name of improving operational resiliency and efficiency and creating more of an autonomous, self-driving, self-healing environment. And finally, ecosystems are becoming critical. More and more organizations are putting really strategic workloads and innovation into different kinds of platforms and are needing to align with ecosystem partners that can support the full stack of the opportunities that they're trying to pursue. So where that's taken us at IDC is to really think about digital infrastructure on a cohesive collective basis, looking across compute, storage, network, cloud, edge, management, security, lifecycle support, and considering how that's going to really transform everything about the infrastructure industry, whether it's our forecast, our competitive assessments, our end user advisory research. What we're seeing is a very rapid shift to more cloud native technologies, to more autonomous, intelligent, self-driving operations, and to ubiquitous, consistent deployment that makes extensive use of consumption-based service subscriptions, whether for dedicated infrastructure or for cloud services. This is really a big change and it's having many impacts on many levels. So think about today, for many of you listening to this, you're probably seeing digital infrastructure workloads and capacity requirements are shifting, but shifting relatively slowly. We're seeing dedicated private clouds and public infrastructure as a service solutions growing overall in terms of capacity and usage. And we're certainly seeing edge and branch and smaller campuses having an important role. But we continue to see traditional data centers still in the mix. The percentage of the work being done in them is declining slowly over time, but it's not going away. And most of the enterprises I talk to are planning for an architectural environment that makes use of all these kinds of platforms on an ongoing basis for the foreseeable future. At the same time, most organizations we talk to recognize that containers, Kubernetes, cloud native architectures are the future. They're the strategic direction, whether it's going to happen quickly or maybe over a little bit more time. 81% of the organizations we talk to say they're planning to use containers in the next few years. And most of them think that it is their long-term strategic direction. But again, containers aren't the only game in town. There will continue to be many, many critical workloads running in bare metal and VM environments, and an increasing range of important applications that run in software as a service and cloud as a service solutions. So the operational environments that most enterprises are going to need to deal with for the coming years are, again, going to have to integrate workloads, data management, data protection, compliance across all these different footprints. What that means operationally is it's just going to get more and more complex. And our research is showing that the majority, 75% of the organizations we talk to, believe that their operation headcount, their IT ops headcount, really will grow at a rate slower than the work they need to support in terms of applications, integration, optimization. So what does that mean? It brings us back to thinking about how to really transform the way that IT operations takes place. It means taking more advantage of automation, taking more advantage of AI and ML powered observability and event triggered automation. And it means rethinking relationships with strategic vendors to shift some of that day-to-day infrastructure support to the vendors, whether it's embodied as a cloud service subscription agreement or as a consumption-driven flex subscription for dedicated on-prem resources. So lots going on right now in terms of where internal IT teams need to be investing in terms of people and skills and headcount, and where they're looking for opportunities to become more automated, more intelligent, and to partner more with third parties. So fundamentally, what this means, if you're an enterprise out there and you're thinking about how you're going to source and operate your digital infrastructure, is that you need to be thinking about as a system that can be self-regulated, that can be consistent, that can be ubiquitous, and can be built on that cloud-centric and cloud-native technologies. This is a really important set of transformations. And if you're out there trying to figure out where to get started, we've got 5 areas that we're recommending organizations consider. First and foremost, think about KPIs. What is it that you're optimizing around? It's important to start shifting from focusing on IT metrics to focusing on line of business outcomes. Think about how you're funding your infrastructure. More and more organizations will shift from CapEx models to more flexible consumption on demand style. Architecture, moving away from those independent silos to platforms that can be upgraded, maintained, and evolve as a system rather than individual building blocks. Operations, think about how to increase the autonomous operations using observability, AI, ML, moving beyond task-specific automation to becoming much more full stack, much more application aware. And governance, moving to a very collaborative center of excellence style model for governance that engages line of business and developers very early, not only in what are the operational policies, but also what is the technology roadmap? Where is it going? And bringing into that conversation insights about how strategic vendors are going to introduce new capabilities that may in fact enable new business outcomes. So really a business-centric, highly automated, cloud-native future is where successful enterprises are going to go. Talking about outcomes, when we engage with enterprises of all sizes, we're seeing some really interesting themes. Certainly compliance is having an important impact on workload and application deployment choices, whether it's GDPR or other data privacy and protection requirements, whether it's industry specific or other governmental requirements. Those are often one of the first things that organizations look at when they decide where to deploy a workload. But there's other outcomes that are equally important. Over the last year and a half, I think many businesses have really come to understand just how dependent they are on supply chains and distributors and partners, whether they're online, e-business partners, or whether they're orchestrating complex supply chains, or whether they're creating more value-add solutions around products and services. Investing to improve that engagement with distributors and partners is a theme that we're seeing more and more. Of course, all organizations want to reduce the cost of doing business. So we're seeing many organizations focusing on outcomes that have to do with tying the cost of infrastructure and operations more closely to the business innovation, getting again, in a more consumption-based model, moving away from just kind of treating IT as a central tax to really making it a fundamental cost of operations and making that clear. And of course, using infrastructure and enabling technologies to differentiate the business and create more personalized omni-channel customer engagement. So those are the kinds of conversations that IT teams really need to be having with their enterprise and line of business and development partners. Fully 71% of the organizations we talk to believe that digital infrastructure resiliency is a priority or top priority to maintain that business success and digital business resilience over time. And most of the organizations we talk to recognize that they need to reduce the time and effort required to manage those investments, and they want to shift more aggressively to these consumption flexible style subscription engagements. So for organizations that are trying to figure out how to get ahead of all the complexity and take full advantage of the digital infrastructure and cloud innovation going forward, we really suggest that you look fundamentally at your operating model, shifting from a traditional team or technology optimized model to really becoming more full stack, data centric, collaboratively oriented, with a shift to an outcomes optimized model, both for KPIs and for ongoing governance. It's a journey that clearly will take many organizations some time because there's a lot of moving parts between the transformation of the infrastructure, of the workloads, of the operating models, of the automation, of the sourcing. But looking at it as a collective is something that's very important for organizations as they start to build this next generation architecture. And IDC's research is definitely pointing to an environment where more and more infrastructure will be consumed as services, as subscriptions, managed with a focus on outcomes and a significant amount of automation. So it's exciting times, and I think that many of you will find that the challenges will be interesting, but also deliver a lot of business value as you go through these transformations. So thanks so much for spending time with me today. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the program, and certainly you can reach out to me on social media or at idc.com to learn more. Thank you.